Hi everyone, sorry I'm just getting this out to you now, but these are the test retake problems for day 4. These are the ones that we normally would have done in class. So you got this handout in class on Thursday, and then these are the 4 or 5 on the left side. I'll do them here and then you can fill them in and finish the ones on the right. Remember, you'll need all 4 days worth of problems done to be able to retake your test tomorrow. So in number 1, it gives you a right triangle with these side lengths marked, 8 and 17, and asks you to find the missing side length, which would be this one down here. Now the important thing to get in this one, the big mistake that I see happening with this one, is not knowing which ones are A, B, and C. And remember, the most important thing is that the one across from the 90 is always your C. So that means these two are A and B, and it doesn't actually matter which is which. If you had called this one A, that would have been fine too. So when I go to set this up in Pythagorean theorem, it's going to look like this. 8 squared plus B squared equals 17 squared. And because the 8 and the 17 are on different sides of the equals sign, I'm going to have to figure them out separately. So this is going to be 64 plus B squared equals 289. And then let's subtract 64 from each side. That's going to be, let's see, 225. And from there, since this is B squared, now one of the mistakes I saw a lot on the test was people leaving this as their final answer. Remember, if that's equal to B squared, we need just B by itself. So we need to take a square root, and we end up with B equal to 15. And that would be your final answer on this one, that this side length would be equal to 15. And again, you'll kind of want to check and make sure that makes sense with the numbers you have here. Like, had you gotten 225 as an answer, that would be way too big. And also remember, the hypotenuse is always going to be the biggest of the 3. So if I had gotten something here that was bigger than 17, I would have known I made a mistake. Okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, the next one says, find the perimeter of a square with an area 784 square millimeters. So what I'm looking at here is a square. And I don't know the side lengths of the square, so I'm just going to call them X. But I know the area is 784. Okay, well, think about how you get the area of a square. The area of a square is base times height, and since this is a square, we know they're both the same, so we can call them both X. So my area is X times X. Now my area I know is 784, so I'm going to plug that in for A. And X times X I could rewrite as X squared. Okay, so if 784 equals X squared, think about it's the same way we did the last problem. If 784 equals X squared, to get X by itself, I would take a square root, and that's going to leave me with 28. Now, I'm not done yet, okay? Because that means that the side length, what this just found for me is what X is. So my side length I can now say is 28. But the question here says, what is the perimeter of the square? Well, perimeter would be the 4 sides added together. So that'd be 28, 28, 28, and 28. So to find perimeter, I would do 28 plus 28 plus 28 plus 28. Or you could also think of it as 28 times 4. And you end up with 112. So that would be 112 millimeters. Okay? So on one like that, you've got to take this number and square root it to get the individual side lengths, and then add up 4 of those to get all the way around the square. Okay, next one. Okay, question number 3 talks about an archery target with a bullseye in the middle. And it says, if I throw a dart at random and we know for sure it lands on the target, what's the probability of it landing in the target area, in the bullseye area? And so anytime you're being asked a probability question, remember the way you're going to figure that out is you're going to find the area that you want it to land in and put that over the area of the whole thing. Okay? So the area of what you actually want, which would be the bullseye, out of all of the possibilities, which would be the whole target. Okay, so I'm going to do area of the inner circle, so area of this circle in here, okay, which has a diameter of 2. Now, if the diameter is 2, that means the radius is half of that, which is 1. So to find the area, I'm going to do pi times radius squared, so pi times 1 squared, over area of the whole thing. Well, again, the whole thing, if the diameter is 12, the radius would have to be 6. So then I would do pi times 6 squared. Okay, because remember, area of a circle is pi r squared. Okay, so that's what I was using there, is pi times radius squared, pi times radius squared. Well, what happens now is my pi's cancel. And so really I just have 1 squared, which is 1, out of 6 squared, which is 36. And I would take your answer like that, or if you converted that to a decimal, that would be okay too. Let's see, 1 out of 36 is, whoops, I don't know what that is as a decimal. I'm going to figure it out real quick. Maybe. It's about 0.027. Okay, so I would take that as an answer as well. Either one of those would be okay. Okay, but again, I set this up and left it as an exact value, meaning I didn't like multiply by 3.14, because I knew since these were both circles, they'd both end up with a pi, and so the pi's were going to cancel out, and I'd be left with just numbers anyway. But so for final answer, either one of these would be okay. Okay, last question asks you to find area of this regular polygon. This is a nonagon. There are 9 sides, and it gives you these lengths. Of course, pretend this line is straight. Not too easy to do on the stylus. So, the way you're going to do that is create triangles. Okay, so I'm going to make this just one triangle. In a minute, I'll go ahead and fill in all the other lines to make all your other triangles. You know, you could do this all the way around, and you would end up with 9 different triangles. But I just want you to look at one for a minute. I've got this side length here of 8, and then I also know this side length is going to be 5.5, because this one down here is 5.5, and this is regular, so they all have to be the same. The problem is what I'm missing is the height of the triangle. Okay, I need the length of that red line that I just drew, because that 8 is not the height of the triangle. So I'm going to take this, shrink it up. I'm going to draw just this triangle separately for a minute. Okay, so that triangle by itself would look like this, where this is 8 on one side. This is what I'm trying to find. Okay, I'm trying to find H. And then this down here is 5.5. Well, to do that, I'm going to do Pythagorean theorem on just half of this triangle. So I'm going to treat this like a right triangle. I know this is a right angle down here. And I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem to find that missing length. So notice this 8 is going to be your hypotenuse, so that has to be the C. And this length down here is going to be half of 5.5, which is going to be 2.75. And I'm going to set up Pythag as 2.75 squared plus b squared, which is really my h, equals 8 squared. Okay, I'm going to need a calculator for this. 2.75 squared is equal to 7.5625 plus b squared equals 64. Okay, subtract off that 7.5625. So minus 7.5625. End up with b squared equals 56.4375. And then because that's b squared, I want to take a square root of that. Hold on. Okay, and when I take the square root of that, I get approximately 7.5. Okay, it's got a little higher decimal, but since everything else is rounded, we can go ahead and round this too. So now I know my height of my triangle is 7.5. All right, I'm going to take all of this and move it off to the side here, okay, and just kind of hang on to this 7.5 number while I blow this back up. Okay, so I now know this is 7.5. So now I can find the area of this whole triangle. Okay, remember to find area of a triangle. It's base times height divided by 2. So in this particular triangle, the base would be the 5.5 multiplied by the height, which is 7.5, and then divide that by 2. I end up with 20.625. So that's the area of this one triangle. But remember, I can take this shape and divide it up into lots of triangles. Okay, and every one of those triangles is going to have that same area. So if the area of this triangle that we found a second ago was this 20.625, I'm going to have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. So to get my final answer, my final area is going to be 20.625 multiplied by the 9 triangles. Final area should come out to be 185.625. And I don't think I gave you units on this. Oh, I did. It's in feet. So this would be square feet for your final answer. Okay? So that would be the area of the whole thing. So this one was a pretty tricky one because first you had to do Pythag to find your height. Then you had to find the area of the triangle. And then you had to multiply by how many triangles there were. So lots of steps here. Okay. There is one more problem that I know I crossed off number 5 on your sheet because it was actually a duplicate of number 1. But there's one more thing from your test that I did not put on any of these sheets, so I want to go through that with you right now. It would be a trapezoid one. Let me start that over. Okay, let's suppose I gave you this trapezoid. I told you these were right angles. Okay, and if this is a trapezoid, we know these two things are parallel. And I want to find the area. Okay, pretty straightforward. It's just me handing you a trapezoid and saying finding the area. Well, the formula for area of a trapezoid, remember, is base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. Okay, now I saw some people on this problem trying to like divide this up into a triangle and then like a rectangle. That would work. However, I don't think anybody who did it that way actually did it correctly that way. Because this would involve a little more, you'd have to figure out what is this length, what is this length. Not that that's hard to do, but you would have to be very careful about how you did that and which numbers you're using. So, but this whole shape by itself is a trapezoid. So you don't really need to do that. I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of that blue line now. Okay, so I'm just going to treat it as one big shape. It's a trapezoid, so I'm going to use my trapezoid formula. The tricky thing about this is figuring out which two the bases are. They are not 5 and 7. Okay, the bases are always your parallel sides. So for this one, if I was going to plug this in, I would say my area is 3 plus 8 because those are my two parallel sides. Okay, so these are my bases. If those two green lines are my bases, then my height is like the distance between the two bases. And I know that because I have right angles here and here. The height always makes a right angle. So my height is going to be the 5, whoops, times 5, and then divide that by 2. Well, let's see, that's going to be 11 times 5 is 55, divided by 2. My area would be 27.5 square units. Okay, so that one should have been pretty straightforward. I really think the trickiest thing about that is knowing that your bases are actually these two sides, and then the height is this one in the middle, okay, because that's the one that makes the right angles. And I would treat it all as one trapezoid rather than trying to break it up, just because I think you're more likely to make mistakes that way. Okay, go ahead and get the problems on the right side of the page, figure it out for yourself. And remember, you'll need all four sheets of practice problems done. You'll need all 4 sheets of practice problems done on both sides, left and right. And then you also need your entire exam review packet completed if you want to take it in class tomorrow. If you are going to come in after school, either tomorrow or Tuesday, that's fine. You don't have to have the exam review done. But if you want to use your class time tomorrow to do the exam review, you'll need to have your exam review done. I'm sorry, if you want to use your time tomorrow to do your test retake, you'll need to have your exam review done. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed your surprise long weekend, and we'll see you in class tomorrow.